I'm Marcus Benjamin, bringing you the Benjamin Report here from Hard Rock Stadium. And the Miami Hurricanes hit rock bottom tonight, losing 23-20 to Georgia Tech. This game was an epic meltdown in the last 38 seconds or so. Miami had a legitimate chance to win this game with just kneeling down and running out the clock. But for some reason, Mario Cristobal decided to run the football with Don Chaney. Why? That's a lot of speculation as to why, and I'll get into that. But Don Chaney, he had one job. Now, the question of if it was a fumble or not, I mean, that's a question, and it's something that should be questioned, because I personally think his elbow was down. But he shouldn't have never been in that scenario, regardless. But he did have one job. And that one job was to not fumble. And he ended up fumbling the ball, and Georgia Tech takes over. Miami's winning the game 20-17, and they get the ball at the 26-yard line, spookily with 26 seconds left. 26 is the number of the great Sean Taylor, rest in peace. And what happens on this drive? Georgia Tech drives down the field in 26 seconds, and the All-American safety Cameron Kitchens makes a bad play, and Georgia Tech scores a touchdown in the final seconds. There was 2 seconds left, but they scored, and they end up winning the game 23-20 over the Miami Hurricanes. There's so much to unpack from that ending. Mario Cristobal went in, took responsibility, and said he should have taken a knee. That's probably the most obvious statement of the year, that he should have taken a knee. Because if Tyler Van Dyke takes a knee, Miami Hurricanes are 5-0 going into North Carolina. But unfortunately, Miami is 4-1 going into North Carolina, and it feels like they lost 3 games, even though it was just 1. I mean, that's how bad it must have felt in that locker room. And that's how bad Cam Kitchens and Don Chaney feel in that locker room. But once again, all of that pain could have been avoided if they would have took a knee. Now, the question is, why? Why didn't he take a knee? That's the question that kind of everybody's asking themselves. For what? For why? Is the question. Now, Don Chaney had 99 yards, and maybe he wanted to get Don Chaney 100 yards. I say, who cares? Is that worth the loss? Absolutely not, obviously. But that's possibly why it happened. Because I was trying to interpret kind of what happened. And that was the only scenario that kind of made some sense. Because based on Mario Cristobal's comments, he talked about getting a first down. Now, getting a first down with 38 seconds left doesn't matter in that scenario. So why were you even thinking about getting a first down? My thought process is that you wanted some more yards, I guess, for Don Chaney, or you didn't realize that Georgia Tech didn't have any timeouts, because they didn't. So that would be the only other explanation. Did you think that they didn't have any timeouts? But apparently it wasn't about that, and he said, that they should have taken a knee. So I was confused. There's some confusing comments from Mario Cristobal. And I know the fan base is irate, and for very good reason. Very good reason, because this is kind of documented now, because he's actually done this before. There was a game, I believe it was in 2016 or 17, where Oregon played Stanford, and he could have taken a knee, and he didn't, and a fumble occurred. So it's a little odd. It's disheartening, and this loss has come at the worst time, because now you go on the road to North Carolina, and then you come back and you play a Clemson team that is still, they're Clemson. They're down a little bit, but they're still Clemson. And you haven't beaten Clemson in I don't know how long. I think Randy Phillips was the safety the last time Miami beat Clemson, I believe. I'd have to double check that. But still, Clemson's going to be a tough game at home. And then you go on the road for Florida State. So this loss couldn't have come at a worser time for the Miami Hurricanes, because you got the 3 toughest games on your schedule coming up. And we've seen from the Hurricanes in previous years, when they lose like an epic game like this, that it tends to snowball. And I think everyone following this team, including myself, felt like things would be different like this season, because of what you heard from the players and coaches, and from what you've seen on the field from this team. This team has shown that they can be dominant. The team has shown that they can step up in big games, as we saw against Texas A&M. But what you saw today was, unfortunately, the same old Hurricanes that you've been seeing for the past years, where there's a letdown game, and a letdown game after a bye too, which I saw is an ongoing theme since 2016 or 2017, something in that area. So there's a lack of focus from this team after a bye, as we've seen, because of history. But we thought it was going to be different. We thought Miami was going to go out there and dominate against a team where they have superior talent. Those last few moments of this game were really shocking. I was in disbelief for a while. I mean, for me, when it was 2 minutes left, I went down to the press room, and luckily the TV was on and it had the game on to kind of see how it all unfolded. And I was pretty sure that Don Chaney was ruled down, and we couldn't hear the audio of the TV. So I was like, okay, well, there must be a reason why they ran the ball on that with 38 seconds. They must have a timeout left. But Georgia Tech did not have a timeout. So Mario Cristobal's thought process in all of this is confusing. It's questionable. It's baffling. Whatever adjective, insert it. Because it just really didn't make a lot of sense of how this game ended. And you saw the frustration with the players. You saw Matt Lee bawling his eyes out. You saw Inez Cooper slam his helmet to the ground when the game was over. This was a bad loss. This was a bad look from Mario Cristobal. This was a step back for a program that was supposed to be stepping up in competition and just in everything that you thought the Miami Hurricanes would be. They are not. At least that's how you feel right now. And unfortunately, they have to pick themselves off the ground, fly to North Carolina, and play a really hot Tar Heel team. We'll really find out a lot about the Hurricanes after that game, or how they show up in that game. Because if they get the doors blown off of them in that game, it's going to be a sad, sad day, or a sad season, I should say, in South Florida, Coral Gables, Dade County, Kings County, whatever you want to call it. So much to unpack in this game. The other thing I did kind of want to say was that Tyler Van Dyke was completely off in this game. And it just made me think that he's just not an elite quarterback. He can be a serviceable quarterback, and we thought it was all on Gaddis. Josh Gaddis, the offensive coordinator for last year, but this year you've got Shannon Dawson, and he just missed a ton of throws. He had 3 interceptions in this game. And he took responsibility for it, like, a teammate should, or a quarterback should. But 3 interceptions and the manner in which he threw them were just unacceptable. One was in the end zone into triple coverage. The second was into double coverage. And the third was just an inaccurate throw. Usually you would lose games like that regardless, throwing 3 interceptions. But Miami still should have won the game regardless of TVD's terrible game, which makes this feeling of a loss for Hurricanes fans even worse. But back to Don Chaney, though. Don Chaney, he literally had... There was one scenario that could not happen when you take the handoff on a 3rd down and 8. And that scenario is to not fumble the ball. Or not be in a situation to put the referees in a situation to make a decision like that, which obviously didn't go your way. So, should have had 2 hands on the ball. He could have literally just took the ball and fell to the ground, and Miami would have won the game. To really put it in perspective, the one scenario that could not happen did not happen. Don Chaney, I love you. You're a great player. You're a great kid. You're a hometown guy. You've come back from injury. But hopefully this is something that he learns from, and he comes back even stronger from. I do have to give some credit to Guidry's defense, even though they gave up the last play of the game that ultimately was the demise of the Miami Hurricanes. They pretty much kind of shut down this Georgia Tech offense, despite Miami's offense being as inept as it was. I think they were holding this offense to just a little over 100 yards total. And I think the defense was shocked that they had to come back onto the field in those 26 seconds. So I don't put this on Guidry at all. I think the defense played well enough to win the game, and it's just unfortunate that they had to lose in this manner. I know one thing's for sure. Miami's never going to wear these black uniforms again. I think they need to go ahead and just burn these uniforms, like some kind of seance. I think they should you know, say whatever they want to say about this game and just have like a fire pit and say what they have to say, and then just toss their jersey or uniform in the fire pit, because those uniforms will bring back this bad memory of this 23-20 loss. That's going to wrap it up for the Benjamin Report for tonight here from Hard Rock Stadium. Miami loses to Georgia Tech in a terrible fashion. Let's just say that. And they will have to try to bounce back next week at North Carolina.